call this meeting to order. If you'll please join me in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. President Smythe is online with us this evening. She had a family emergency and needed to stay home, but she is running this remotely. And Taynona is at a child's program and was excused for the evening. Board, were there any items that were too late for the agenda? All right, reports. We'll start with the Internal Affairs Committee.
Oh, hello, sorry, that's me. Just sat down, hold on. Okay, as usual, Internal Affairs this month, we went over the three policies that you'll see in your motions, the request for or the RFP for courier services, the access policy and the collection development policy, and we'll take a look at those a little bit later and hopefully vote on the changes made to those.
Thank you. Public Affairs Committee.
We did not meet.
Thank you. Governance Committee.
We did not. We did not meet.
Thank you. Were there any trustee comments this evening? I will say I was able to attend Randy's retirement party. It was great to see him off and hear all the wonderful things that were said about him. He's been with the district for many years and helped us through a lot of budget cycles. So I wish him well in his retirement and welcome Ms. Haga to fill the shoes, but not his office. Any other trustee comments? All right. Next is the Friends of the Pike Peak Library District report. Ms. Jordan.
Thank you. So the only thing I have to add to the report was that we had our fall book sale this past weekend. And once again, we beat the amount that we brought in from the spring report. So, you know, I like numbers. So the number of books and media, so number of items sold was 15,156 for a dollar amount of $16,981.20. We always, when folks came up, we'd ask if they would round up. And so we had an additional $495.60 that we added in there. We have started the last year and a half, 2 years, we've started to collect tax rather than pay it ourselves. So we did collect tax. So I will just give you the net sales, taking out card processing fees, taking out the tax that the patrons paid, not including memberships that were bought that day. So strictly sales, net sales was $17,064.91. I'd like to know how you got that 1 cent, 91. So once again, a very successful sale. We had 98 volunteers during those 4 days, 15 of whom were new volunteering to the Friends. So it's always nice when we have folks who think this is, something important and beneficial, and they volunteer to help us. So lots of work, very tired. Most of the volunteers were very tired by the end of the 4 days, but we just were really pleased with the results. So thank you.
Oh, that's great news. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Certainly.
All right, next is the foundation report. Ms. Van Cleve.
Is this on? Can you hear me? Okay. You're good now? Okay. Are there any questions about what I sent over, anything like that? Great. I think the most exciting thing is that we are going to be looking at the MOU in our board meeting and hopefully wrapping that up. So wish me luck.
Thanks. All right, next is the financial report for September of 25. Ms. Haga.
technology. Living New York, if you got me here today. I just wanted to go over a couple of points on the financials and then I'll go through the questions you would have. So property taxes, if you remember from the last board meeting, we were practically, had collected all of the property tax for the year. We did have a little bump in the specific ownership tax for this month in about 300,000, so that was nice to see. Our expenses continue to be top three. Our employee salaries and benefits, which is about 70% of the budget. Our collection management material, which is about 75% of budget. And then our building and vehicle maintenance, which is currently sitting at 65%. And then you go down to the bottom at the capital fund expenditures. I did want to mention that there were 2 increases this month from last month. We have some in facilities, which is the 21C water we brought through, as well as the AMH kickoff, which we're very excited about at East. And then for IT, some firewall purchases and some staff refreshes. And then my final point is I wanted to draw attention to the last page of the report itself, which is the self-insurance fund. And I just wanted to mention I'm going to give the classification update to meet our new presented budget so that the current year shows what the next year budget looks like. And that's just moving the administrative fees out of the salaries and benefits line and putting it into the contract services. So dollar amounts have not changed. It's just the classification change. And that's just so that we can kind of isolate more of those costs that we can control versus the cost that we can't. And that would be in the budget.
Thank you. Board? All right, thank you. Next is the public services report of sales.
Thank you. Well, as you know, we've been recording the updated status for the integrated library system, so I'll start with that again. The ILS the new ILS is coming. Today is our last day of purchasing new physical materials until our new system is in place. And if you recall, that is because the ILS system is the nervous system for everything the library does. And so that includes purchasing, processing, and classification. And so in order to get those ordered and received and shelved, we have to do that before the new system comes. So that's why it's such a delay. However, we are shifting our purchase towards e-materials. We intend to purchase more e-materials, so those items will be available in that format too. Okay. Very exciting news, aside from the AMH system that they're installing at East, the new bookmobile arrived this week.
Yay.
So you will be seeing that out on the road in a few weeks, so I wanted to make sure to throw that out. And then finally, programming, recently started a new 55+ makerspace program, and it was filled. Those seats were filled within a few minutes of opening that registration. So a new and exciting program for a different generation that we're on. So that's it. Any questions?
Board? Nope, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next are the support services reports. Are there any questions about that? Comms, facility, security, HR, IT, strategy and innovation. I will say, I really appreciated seeing all of the strategy and innovation stuff, both of the board retreat, and I think we had a little bit of the something, I don't know when, and having all that come in and the work that you guys have done and all the data you looked at, it's just, I think it's phenomenal. So I know this is a lot of work that's going in to provide this data and how you're compiling it and analyzing it, but I just want to say, I think it's great work and really appreciate what you guys do.
I actually have a question. I guess this would be you, Tammy. So the page 3 of your report packet, if I'm reading this correctly, that's
But I can't hear you.
Sorry.
Wait a minute.
Page 30 of the board packet, the wait lists.
Yes.
Am I reading this right, that there were 507 people that were waitlisted for the kitchen training?
Yes. For program.
For programming? Okay.
Right.
Right.
The actual other programs that they do as well.
Okay, wow, okay.
Good thing we have that kitchen.
I was gonna say. Yeah, all right. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions, board? Okay, thank you. Next, move on to the CEO report. Is that you, sales?
It is.
All right.
Well, first, the owner wanted to again express her appreciation for you allowing her to have the 9 o'clock tonight. She wasn't able to attend this event last year, so she is grateful that she did that this year. I also get the pleasure of introducing Kim Hagen officially as our Chief Financial Officer. Kim joins our executive leadership team, bringing a wealth of expertise and a passion for strategic financial management that will be invaluable as we continue to grow PPLD's mission. Kim's a seasoned finance and accounting professional with 16 years of comprehensive experience across diverse sectors, including for-profit, nonprofit, and government agencies. She holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in accounting. This unique background provides a holistic and deep understanding of the financial landscapes PPLD navigates, ensuring we are well positioned for a sustainable success, clients, and strategic investment. It was very apparent in the interview process that Kim is passionate about leveraging financial strategy, not just for growth, but to maximize PPLD's positive impact on the community we serve. She demonstrated a commitment to fostering a culture of membership and financial literacy, mentorship and financial literacy. We're already witnessing the innovative perspective Kim is implementing with our internal teams and external partnerships. And we are all very excited to have her leadership, expertise, and commitment to PPLD's mission. So welcome, Kim. Officially.
Yeah.
And then Scott kind of pointed this out, but the final thing I have for the CEO report is on page 30, is the programs at a glance. As you all remember, this is one of the goals you set for the CEO to provide data and statistics on the services and impact we are having in the community. And I think strategy and innovation has once again done an excellent job of demonstrating that both written and in nice lovely reference. So they're doing a great job. That's my report for her. Thank you.
Thanks. Board, any questions or comments?
I'm just curious. So when you have wait lists, do we have oh yeah, sorry. Okay, sorry. When we have wait lists for programs, do we have any idea how many people on the wait list actually get into the programs? I mean, do people sign up and they don't drop out? Or
It would depend. And so it depends on if a person who got registered for a seat, if they canceled their seat, then the next person on the waiting list automatically gets a seat and the system itself notifies that patron that their status has changed from wait list to reserved.
do we have any idea how often that happens? Probably
I
not.
don't think it tracks that. Does it?
The members that we were able to forward number of registrants and.
Right. I don't think the system that we use will pull that. We can double check it.
I was just curious, if you have a long waiting list, how much hope do those people have of getting in there? Okay, thanks.
I'm sorry, I just popped a couple of questions in my head first. So yes, it'd be great if someone drops out and you can fill another one. Do we have, if there's 20 slots, do 20 people typically show up? Or are we seeing people do slots and then missing? And is there any way of tracking if someone's missed 2 or 3? That, you know, maybe they get put on our wait list? That was a lot.
It is, but I have an answer. So the answer to both those questions of whether or not, people show up or whether or not they often register and don't show up is yes to both. Really, it depends on the program. The food programs, people no of those are really small and they're fortunate to get it, so we see a really high attendance rate of them showing up, and then, but some of the others, we do have some frequent patrons who register and then don't show up too. So unfortunately, the system that we have doesn't necessarily track some of them or allow us to say, when you registered times not shown. It is on my own personal goal to find that event registration system. But
That's
it's,
that goal.
yes.
Any other questions? All right, I was gonna mention, I forgot earlier, when we were talking about the strategic and innovative strategy and innovation group, if you wanted to see some of the work they've done. If you look in the minutes from the board packet, from the board retreat, they had a presentation that had heat maps and a lot of data involved there, so you can see the types of information they're putting together for the district. All right, next is our business items, consent items. There's no objection, we'll approve those and move on. All right, next is new business. The URA folks are still en route. We're gonna come back to that. We're going to postpone that one or table it for now and move on to decision 25-10-2, RFP period for courier services. Ms. Pierce.
This came up a lot faster in the agenda. So, I'm gonna give you guys the courier services RFP recommendation. And real quickly, I'll just start with a little bit of background that PPLD moves a lot of stuff every day. And that is so people can place holds and determine which library they want to pick the item up at. And we move it around for them. And we also move a lot of materials that can be returned to smaller branches that don't have room for everything. Things get sent back to larger branches. There are other things that get moved around, kits and things like that too. So it's a very intensive job. It's very, it's essential. People love placing holds, being able to pick up holds and not having to go to the branch that has the item. So it's one of our most popular services is providing that convenience. We were due to put out an RFP for our courier, and so that was done this fall. RFP was released in August, and we had a mandatory pre-proposal meeting here at 21C. Following the proposal coming out, and we require all of the potential vendors to come to that meeting because there's a wide range of courier services out there, and people really need to understand the rigor involved with bins of library materials and thousands of things every day. So we found in the past that it's really helpful to have them actually see and talk, and then we also talk about how important the schedule is because our staff sometimes are scheduled for tasks based on when these bins arrive. So we might have staff scheduled or volunteers at a library to what we call tracking the holds. They're taking the materials that arrive and then processing the holds. And so, you know, the schedule is important. It's a pretty set schedule and not a ton of flexibility. So there are a lot of requirements for this particular courier job. So those things were discussed. We took questions and posted answers online to the questions that were asked. And the due date for the proposals was September 17th. The criteria that were taken into consideration for the proposals was the completeness of the proposal, the pricing, the quality of the services, and the expected ability to perform the tasks and schedule, the vendor qualifications and history, their references, and any other items deemed in the best interest of PPLD. So our RFP review committee members independently scored each of the proposals. References were called for the proposals that had 2 highest scores. And our recommendation is that Stat Courier Service, which is also our current courier, that they be selected. They submitted the highest scoring proposal. The current contract price is $20,347 a month. The new contract will be $15,750 a month. So monthly savings of about $4,500. Our hope is if the board approves it, that we can we can notify the vendor in the next couple of days and get them prepped to do this job for the next year. Any questions on the recommendation or anything about that?
So I just had a quick question, looking at the savings of around I mean, that's about 25% of what the actual cost of the contract was last year. Was there a reduction in requirements or services or?
No, but we do see this often with vendors that we've had for quite some time, that when we go out to bid, if they bid, it's usually at a lower cost than what they're currently charging us. We have not had to pay a fuel surcharge with staff in the past year or two. They've been actually, I would say, fairly reasonable with a lot of that pricing, but we have been with them for over 5 years, since the last contract was done. So I think going to bid, just put the price down.
Thank you.
Just gonna follow up, because you were thinking like I was, do you foresee any areas where it could get more costly without us doing, or they could move the gauge? Where it does actually cost more, because that is quite a significant savings, which I'm glad to see you looking for.
And I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch the end of that. Said,
Do you see in the contract anything that the gauge could move that would actually make the prices higher, like maybe instead of dollar for dollar, if we did this, it would cost, but before we got it at no cost?
I don't think so. We looked at the contract, we looked at we looked at our last contract and then looked at, basically there may have been, I don't think that we even did any route changes. It really was pretty similar. I don't think so. I think that everything, they aren't looking to shortcut anything,
Thank
at
you.
least based on the reply.
Any other questions?
I have a couple. Looking at the RFP or the document in the board packet, I didn't see any of the other vendors' information. Usually in the past, when we've done an RFP, we also get a list of the other vendors that have applied and their estimates as well as why they weren't chosen. Do you have any of that?
I'll defer to him on the process.
You will have that information, I just don't know what the name right at this moment. Staff career was the highest scoring. There was one other vendor that was close, the other two, one was not even viable, and then the other one hadn't been around very long, and we didn't go on all of the information we can provide, so we can provide that information.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin.
All right, there are no other questions. Negative motion for decision 25-10-2.
I can do that. I move that the Pikes Library District Board of Trustees approve the RFP courier services as presented.
A second.
I second a motion.
All right, it has been moved and seconded that the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees approve the RFP courier services as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, next is decision 25-10-3, access policy. Ms. Smythe, is
All
that-
right. Yes, that would be me. So I'll just give an update on both the access and the content development policies or collection development policies. As you may recall, back last year, we were talking about making sure that we had arranged the board policies that they were shorter, more readable, and we separated out the administrative policies into the administrative section. So you'll see in those two areas, we just cut the pieces that were either part of that or that were repetitive or outdated from those policies. So we just cut them down to the core pieces. So in I believe it's in the access policy, we removed a significant amount of text and just replaced that with a reference to our rights and responsibility statement that we passed in February, and same with the collection development. So we removed, as I said, those procedures and outdated material and just kept the core policy.
All right, thank you. So just as clarification, the access policy is not effectively changing. We've already removed most of this to add to an admin policy, and we're just cleaning up the board policy section and referencing the appropriate language in that policy.
Correct.
Thank you. Board, any questions or comments?
I have a couple. First paragraph, the sole determination of what library material services person will use rests with the individual. I think we need to add or a child's parents. Because we represented parents down below. I think that we need to add that. So that we're consistent throughout the policy here.
So we could say individual or guardian. Is that what you're saying?
Parent.
That would be the guardian parent.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and then the other, as in the parent paragraph, do we really need to have parents may choose to monitor the library use of their own child? Standards applied by a child's parents for that child shall not be imposed on anyone else's child. Does that really need to be there?
I think that's a good point. For our illustrious team over here, do we have issues of individuals or patrons trying to enforce guidelines onto other people's children? I guess my question is there a reason to keep that?
Well, it depends on how you want to look at it. Because it is your policy, right? And so we do have, as you know, you've got the reconsideration of library materials policy. That typically is that process where somebody else wants to impart their opinion on a piece of material that's in our collection. So.
But that references an entirely different process and policy at that point.
Right.
Exactly, since we've already got another policy that's associated with minors and guardians, all that, do we really need here as well?
Would just say that I am comfortable having it in there. Basically because it's a statement of our policy. It's not an administrative kind of thing. And I think that stating that clearly, that as a board, we believe that parents are responsible for their own kids and only their own kids. I'm comfortable having that in there personally.
I actually agree with you, Debbie. Aaron, myself. I kind
I'm
of like that.
Okay.
However, I don't know that I like it, I don't know that it's necessary, but my brain went immediately to, but it must have been there. There had to have been some situation, right, that ended it up there, so that's sort of where my brain went to as well. It must have been in there because of something that sort of maybe happened or that we wanted to reference. That's all. I'm okay with it going either way, so I do like the statement in general.
It doesn't give me heartburn to keep it, it doesn't give me heartburn to nix it. I'm fine moving up back to the previous as far as doing an individual, and or parent slash guardian, I don't know exactly how we put that, but I think we need to have specific language if you wanna write something, Scott, that we can put in the policy to get it through.
It would just be a and or parent guardian, that to me would be fine. As for the parents item in that third paragraph, it's just, we now need to make sure that we're consistent between this policy and all the other policies that have to do with children and stuff like that. So if we make a policy change on a different document, we've got to make sure that we're not changing the policy, or we're not contrasting what is in this policy as well. So we just need to be consistent amongst the policies.
Yeah, I think in terms of consistency with what we have in the rights and responsibilities statement, I think it's pretty close. Listening to what y'all are saying, I would be fine with at the end of that first paragraph saying, or the individual's guardian. And then if we wanted to remove that last sentence in the third paragraph, standards applied by a children's parent shall not be imposed on anyone else's child. I don't think that's really an enforceable sentence, so I don't mind removing that. Although I do think the third paragraph is helpful for iterating parents' responsibility. That echoes the responsibility statement quite well, I think. So those would be the two changes that would make sense to me, is adding a couple words at the end of the first paragraph and maybe removing that last sentence of the third. But
Alright, so we should get a motion to amend policy as presented to add and the individual's parent slash guardian at the end of the first paragraph. And then you said strike the last sentence of the third paragraph, says standards applied by children's parents for that child shall not be imposed on anyone else's child.
Did we vote on those separately?
We absolutely can.
Okay,
I'm just trying to make sure I'm tracking
yeah,
everything.
thanks.
All right, so first I need a motion to amend by adding and the individual's parent slash guardian after individual at the end of the first paragraph.
I move that we amend the access to materials policy. Oh, gosh, sorry. I move.
access policy.
Yeah, access policy. To add the words, or,
And
or parent or guardian.
the individual's parent slash guardian.
And, okay. So the last sentence would read, how's this? The sole determination of what library materials and services a person will use rests with the individual and the individual's parent or guardian.
I second.
You want to include the elimination of that third.
We're gonna do separate. All right, so all in favor of the amendment, adding and the individual's parent slash guardian to the end of the first paragraph, please say aye.
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 All opposed? All right, motion carries, we inserted. Next, I need a motion to strike the last sentence of the third paragraph stating standards applied by a child's parents for that child shall not be imposed on anyone else's child.
I'll make the motion of amending the access to materials policy to remove certain standards applied by a child's parents for the child shall not be imposed on anyone else's child.
I'll second.
Right? Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
No,
All right, motion carries with 1 no. All right, now we will vote on the policy as amended, so can I have a motion to approve the access policy as amended for decision 25-10-3.
Make the motion that the board approve the access to materials policy as amended.
I'll second the motion.
All right, any other discussion? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries. We will now move on to decision 25-10-4, collection development policy. Ms. Mike.
All right, yeah, similar to what I said before about the access policy, we're just removing the procedures here and then again, reformulating the ending there to refer to the Colorado law and our other reconsideration policy, so referring people to that other policy for that specific piece. And then referring to the collection development policy and the outline, those things should be outlined in the administrative policy. So we're just kind of telling people where those pieces are going, so the procedures are elsewhere. We do have to have a separate reconsideration policy, which is why it's not part of the same policy. There was a law passed that we had to have a specific reconsideration policy. So that's why this one just refers to the other policy rather than including them as the same policy.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments? All right. Seeing none, do we have a motion to approve the collection development policy at the time?
I move that we approve the collection development policy.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries and development policy is adopted. All right, next we'll remove decision 25-10-1 from the table. I believe we have everybody here now. Is that true? Yes, wonderful. Mr. Walker, the floor is yours. This is new.
Thanks, Jeremiah. Thank you, Mike.
Just a short note for me.
That's good. Appreciate it. Well, good evening, board. Jeriah Walker, Executive Director of the Colorado Springs Urban Renewal Authority. Appreciate you having us here tonight. Wanted to highlight a couple things about this project that is within the North Nevada corridor. One thing, Kenny, I do have a gift for you. Since your confirmation process was so fun, we were gonna give that to you at that point in time, but there was a lot going on, so we figured we would wait until we got here to give you that book. That just covers all of our projects in the city, et cetera, as well as the state statute as it relates to urban renewal projects. Another little goodie I just wanted to bring for the board too, since it's relevant to this topic. We did just recently complete an Urban Land Institute study in the North Nevada corridor. This has been something that Councilwoman Crow Iverson in particular has been very focused on. Matter of fact, she's the chair of a working committee that involves the URA board, city. We've got utility reps on that, private sector developers, but it really goes over that entire corridor from Garden of the Gods all the way down to Fillmore. And while we were doing those studies, the Pikes Peak Library District was somebody that took part in that. We had D20, D11, as well as a lot of individual owners in that area, as well as business owners. I'm gonna scatter those just around. You can look at these as you see fit, but they are germane to what we're talking about today. This particular project, the Odyssey at North Weber, was something we've been working on this North Nevada corridor study really for many years. We've been off and on for about 6 years with it. Matter of fact, Angela, a lot of this dates back to when you were on city council, you know, back in the day of this being a focus area. So we finally have gotten to the point where we've got some good momentum and studies on this district. And one of the things that has consistently come up is we need new housing. We need new market housing, we need new attainable housing, as well as more retail and commercial development in the corridor as well. For those of you who are aware of it, when I go through this area, I'm not really paying a ton of attention, but there's no sidewalks. There's not very good lighting. It's a high crime area. And we're hoping that eventually this area becomes a little bit more about what we did over at University Village, where the Trader Joe's is and the Lowe's and the connections to the trail. We're hoping for some more of that, but also more residential units sprinkled in throughout as well. So, and also in partnership with the university. So with that being said, I'm going to bring up Drew. Drew is somebody that is taking the lead on this project. Just to let the board know of where we're at in the process. He's gone through the full URI designation process. Obviously, we've got all of our study work completed. That's within your packet. He's gotten a 5-0 vote from the Board of County Commissioners. He got a 7-0 vote from School Board District 11, and he got an 11-0 vote with the Southeastern Water Conservancy District. We are not anticipating much resistance from City Council on this project as well, just because it's been such a community effort and they know that the project is needed. So with that being said, I'm gonna have Drew come up here and go through the project slides. Happy to take any questions on the project at that point. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention Andrew Knudsen, who is the one who does all that financial analysis in those reports. He is online. So if for some reason we want to go into that extra layer of detail, we certainly can. We can go through the why and the but-for test, all of that. He is present online for that, but a lot of that information is already in your packet. So I'll leave that up to the board and the chair to make that determination. Drew, come on up. And then on this too, when you click, just do me a favor and click over at the computer when you click through. Okay, I can do that.
Thank you very much for having me. My name is Drew Geiser. I'm one of the development partners on this. Give you a little bit of background on myself. This is, we've done a lot of smaller infill development. And when we saw this, we partnered with another group of developers that's done a larger group because this was going to be the bigger one we did. Prior to my life as a developer, I worked for the fire department for 20 years and then transitioned in 2021 over into the development side. And in doing so, that missing middle, which we'll talk about a lot here, kind of has always intrigued me and my other partner, who also comes from a service background. And it is what we have learned to be the most difficult way to develop anything. So I'm sure you'll hear that luxury and kind of the two ends of the spectrum are the greatest, and then anything in the middle is what gets crushed. And we felt that a little bit just because there's not a lot of resources for the people who can not qualify for the affordable, but also can't necessarily afford the downtown luxury that other developers are building. So to tell you a little bit about our project.
There's gonna be a slight delay because we're checking through Zoom, so when you click.
Perfect. I'll wait. Be patient. I was told to go quick, so I don't want to take up too much of your time. It's 4.4 acres. We have 120 units on it. What's interesting about this is we do have a 1, 2, and 3 bed. When we looked at this and when we looked at the neighborhood that we're building it in, we know that it's majority family neighborhood. And the only new housing that's been built in it has been student housing. So what we did is we actually went much heavier on the 3-bedroom mix than we did on the 1s and 2s proportionally, as you would look at a typical development. We are targeting the workforce or missing middle, which we'll go over that here in a minute.
There's a question right here, Drew.
Just a quick question. Would you prefer us to hold our questions or let you get through, or do you prefer us to stop and ask when we're at that?
It's right here. Go ahead and ask.
Okay, I do have a couple.
Okay.
Just looking at, so what, you're not luxury, you're not, oh, thank you. You're welcome. Appreciate you. Where do these fall in the apartment complex? How they rate them? As luxury, you said they're not luxury, they're not.
I have a whole slide that will dive into that if I can
Okay.
get to that one.
That's
Yeah.
okay. And then, you says 932 square feet average. What is the, average of the smallest versus the largest, and how much at each one? And do you have a slide for that as
Yeah,
well?
slide for that as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, so here's just an overview of the site plan. Like you said, we are through the city with our development plan. We've been approved with them. We're through regional with the majority of our building permits. There's a few things that are kind of lingering, and then obviously we try and match that with our financing. And we're in a program with HUD on this, and it's a new program called Workforce Housing that they haven't actually issued out yet. It's not subsidized like it's affordable housing, so we try not to use that word because that gets a whole bunch of subsidies from a lot of different entities. Ours is still unsubsidized. It's just a different loan program that allows us to have a longer amortization period than a typical loan. So instead of like a 30-year mortgage, we're giving a 40-year mortgage to try and help break the cost down. One of the things we've done on this project, unlike the majority of the new ones you've seen popped up, they're called garden walk-ups, which means there's no elevator. But on this one, instead of doing 24, I'm capping. Instead of doing 24 dwelling units per building, we've broken it down into 12 dwelling units per building. Because we feel like that breaks the density up a little bit and makes it feel a little bit more livable and not as clustered. We also put a park in the middle, open grass and kind of a barbecue area there. And then at the very tip down there, you're gonna see kind of our residence center, which would be fitness and storage and things like that. Cragmore Road right now is not a cul-de-sac. That's part of our improvements, and one of the things that your money would go to is helping us build that cul-de-sac. So.
Are there individual homes on the, on the other side of Crackmore or in that area where the road?
So this used to be a school and this was the baseball fields. Then it was sold to someone before that, bought the school, and then we bought it from a third person. Everything to the north and west of us is individual. Everything to the, I gotta make my directions. East is apartments, south is industrial, and then west is commercial.
Okay.
I think I have a slide. We'll see. All right, so going back to your question about not luxury, not affordable, the missing middle is that 80 to 100%, 120% technically AMI range, area median income. Those are HUD numbers where they say this is El Paso County's area median income. And then the way they figure out.
Number actually go out to in a salary.
I don't have that, but we can find it out. Because it is, like I said, it is, I don't have it memorized.
It's all determined by HUD, but I'm sure I can find it.
Yeah, it just helps to have a number,
Absolutely.
even if you have a range.
I
that
don't
helps.
have a slide for that. I
Okay.
should. What we're shooting for is 80 to 100%. To help you understand that, if your area median income is $50,000 for whatever percentage that is, you're allowed a third of that for your living expenses. So that's how they determine what the rents are for us, is they take a third of the area median income. So if we're saying we're targeting 80 to 100%, it's gonna be 1/3 of that median income can go towards rent. Is kind of the high level.
Do you have that target number, or does that go back to the salary?
It'll show on our targets, rents here next. So right now, you look at our 1-bedrooms, we have 24 1-bedrooms, which the typical new development is highest on 1-bedrooms. Those are 600, almost 700 square feet. Our 2-bedrooms are 915 square feet at 2/3, and then our 3-bedrooms are 1,159 square. And if you look on the right, you'll see the area median incomes, and then any of the shaded in areas show you what units fit the 80, 90, and 100%. This project will be 50% below 90%. And then
50% below 90%?
50% below 90% is the way it'll work, and then it all has to be below, through the HUD process, it all has to be in that missing middle, 80 to 120. We don't ever foresee this breaking 100% ever. So, but it will be restricted at 90% AMI and below for 50% of the units.
And that's what just to add to what Drew just said, so the URA designation, we'll lock that in. for our 25-year URA plan. So we actually like keep that, and then HUD will actually add a little bit more even on top of that. But that's our goal, is to keep that at that level, at least for the term that it's under the URA designation.
And we can't, that'll be a written agreement where we have to report that and work.
And 696 square feet, I mean, it's bigger than other projects I have seen,
Yeah.
but again, limited. You've seen no budging on that. I mean, at least your buildings are more building than play. Your play is outside, but maybe taking one or two off. So that people really have this desire and energy. Thank you.
Are you talking about making larger units, like losing a couple of units to make them
Yeah.
larger?
Cause like 696 is, you know, I mean, hotel rooms can almost be that big.
So we worked really hard on our layouts and our floor plans to make them as livable. That's one of the things when you talk about what's the difference between luxury. We're not building odd shape. We maximize the shape of the buildings, the squares and the rectangles, so that we could lay out the units to be as livable as possible. We're pushing to make them as comfortable as possible. They're all gonna be hard surface counters. They're all gonna have nice design to them. They're not. We're trying to provide a really livable experience. And the reason is we have to attract renters, right? Renters aren't gonna care if the next door property is not is nicer and they can afford it. They're not gonna come to our property. So that's where we're playing this really tightrope. Where the affordable housing, they have renters vouchers, they just come in and they get filled up. We're playing this missing middle game where it's hard. We have to provide the service that makes them want to live with us as well. So we're designing it that way.
So no on square foot changes.
Well, we're already through permitting, so that would be a really expensive redraft, would be the other part. So here's the location. Jeremiah talked a little bit about the North Nevada master plan. We're just on the outside of it, what's called the influence area. So it's the red square there. Well, those lines are push the wrong button. The red triangle square up there on that north zone, in the north zone. Oh, look at that.
Hey.
So. The other question that we get a lot of is the abundance of apartments that have hit the market recently. I think if you're watching the news, you've heard about that. Metro wide across Colorado Springs, there has been a high delivery of apartments that have hit the market. It's not, that's a funny thing as you look metro wide, it has been a lot, it's just been a lot at the same time. And actually, all the studies showing moving forward that there's a cliff of new permits where there's nothing in planning or in the pipeline. But for our project, outside of the 5.7-year supply in 3 years, and this is a third-party study to put these numbers together, this isn't ours. Would you look at our primary market, which is what they consider the people that would be looking and living in our development? We actually have a 1.8-year supply for 3 years worth of demand. And that's because there has been no new housing built. And if you drive that area, I think you guys will see that. So there's no new housing that's been built in this submarket. Outside of some student housing, the last, I think, was 40 or 50 years. This is just some excerpts of the North Nevada master plan that's on the city's website, just showing that we're fitting in what the city council is looking for. This is showing you where Cragmore currently continues to drive, and I was actually looking at it on the county maps today. Cragmore used to go all the way to Nevada through that neighborhood there across the creek. So when they stopped that off, they had plans to put in a cul-de-sac, and they've never built the cul-de-sac. So part of our conditions were to put the cul-de-sac in to help eliminate the danger of that intersection there. So the financing viability of it, we're through with the HUD 221D4. We have all the reports, the market studies in for both HUD and for the URA. We have all of our building plans drawn and ready for approval. We've put together our right team and we're just ready now. We just need to kind of the one tool we have in the missing middle, which is the URA, to help us get it across the finish line. And just to give you an idea, when we started this project, our building costs Where originally they were estimating around $135 a foot, and we're looking at closer to 200 now. So just from the cost perspective. Any more questions?
I do have a couple quick easy questions, I think. So when you just sort of, well, that's what I was gonna ask you, so you were 200, some I was gonna, can you give me just the average cost of what these are specking out for what you built them to? For the quality?
That's a moving target that I'm still asking too. But with the quality wise, like I said, we're picking hard surface finishes, we're picking LVP tile on the finish side of it. Total cost right now, I can give you a range, because we're still, it's a moving target with our subs, because they don't want to give us hard bids until they know that we're actually going to be building. We're waiting on this process, so I would say between 215 and 230,000 a unit.
And then I did have another question, and I think I've lost it, so I'll just hold on to it. I'll come back.
Any other questions, board? Mr. Taylor?
I usually wait until all of them, is this like the end of the presentation? I don't wanna.
The last one is just a picture of all the team. So,
Okay.
Unless you want the consultants to present too, which we do now, if you want that.
No, I mean, that's okay. And looking at all the documentation, I've got questions specific to some of the documents that were included in the board packet. Who is Weber Investment?
that's the entity that we formed to build this. So anytime you put together a development, you create, it's its own entity. And then that's the entity that builds it, so it's managed by Blue Truck Capital, and but it's just its own LLC.
Okay, so is Narray, I don't know if that's how you say that.
Renegade and Narrate are partners in it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. The AMI for that specific area. Did we find out what that, the AMI is for that specific area? Like, I think for the Springs, it's around 78.
The AMIs are county based.
Yeah, they're countywide AMIs, so they go everywhere from 30 to 80%. So I can give you like a single in. So you, I don't know. I'm gonna-
Run away, run away.
Not me.
Thank you, so. So let's see if that helps. Yeah, stop. Let me pull that back up, but I want to say, a single person, 80% AMI is $63,000.
Okay, that's what I found as well. Okay.
Yeah.
City council has not gotten this yet, right?
No, by law, they can't get it until the very end, so we have to get all the tax agency approvals before it goes in front of them.
Okay, so who actually agrees and declares a specific location is blighted?
The Urban Renewal Authority board does, but we hire the consultants to come through and do those condition studies. The URA will approve that blight study. Ultimately, though, that's a legislative act that ultimately is done by city council. So one of their final acts will be not only approve an agreement like you all are, but also looking at that blight study and officially blighting the area and creating the URA.
Yeah, see, that's the problem that I kind of have is we're waiting for the city council to say, yes, they agree with the blighted study, and yes, it is a blighted area, but you're already gone to each of the taxing entities and requested funding. So is the agreement that we have, or the board moves forward with the agreement, is it contingent upon the city council coming back and saying, yes, we agree that that specific area is blighted and say so?
Absolutely. Yeah. So if you approve it, that's a built-in protection with it, that the project can't go through. And really, that's a built-in protection, even if the development doesn't go through, right? Then it's kind of no harm, no foul. And we don't have increment that's coming in on the project.
Okay. I have several more, but if anybody wants to jump in. Except for you, Eric.
Thanks.
I'll jump in.
Ms. Rush, please.
Thank you. Jariah, I know you and I have talked a lot about, sometimes philosophically, we might like parts of a project and not like parts of a project, but really what we are, you guys have already done that liking, not liking part, and the project is already designed. So what we are deciding is whether or not we want to approve the tax increment financing for a project that may or may not happen without our approval. Is that correct? We're not redesigning the project here.
Correct, and it actually still, one step that we do have to do before we go to city council is it still has to go in front of the planning commission for compliance with the city's comprehensive plan. And that's really the level where design, walkability, all of those factors come in on that board in particular.
So if we were individually concerned about those things, we could go to the planning commission and make those comments.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, and so then the other thing I want to point, I'm looking at, I just want to make sure I understand this table. So right now, we get about $640 a year in property taxes on that property, correct? And so that, assuming the project gets developed, that would go up a little bit. And then at the end of 25 years, it would go up a lot. If the development doesn't succeed, if it doesn't get built or whatever, there's no risk to the library. Is that correct?
That is correct. And actually that base amount will incrementally, that gets adjusted up based on the improvements on the land every 2 years. So with the development, that base will also increase. Granted, it's just land. Really, the big aspect here is just building in the level of affordability and then just getting new development in this area to make it more safe and build it out the way that the people that live there now and then who travel it deserve it to be.
Okay. And just again, from a risk standpoint, if we were to do in the future some kind of detabering or ballot issue or whatever, that additional revenue is not part of this. Is that correct?
Correct, yeah. So if you were to go for a bill levy override, or if you were to go for some sort of increase beyond what this is, then you would get to capture that off of this development. That's not something that would go into the increment being collected.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one more question for Drew.
Yes, ma'am.
I know that there are some single family homes nearby. And have you talked to the community? Have you had any pushback? I mean, I couldn't find anywhere. I looked for some.
We've had no pushback. When we
Okay.
put through our development plan, there was, and that was a while ago, we always get 1 or 2 letters. I can't remember any on this site. I'm not saying there weren't. I'd have to go back and check the record, but it was very minimal, no pushback, and planning commission was in full support.
Okay, great, thanks. That's all, Scott. You've never done.
Okay, I have a couple questions on, and I'm sorry, I don't know if it's on our board report, it's this little diagram here.
I'm gonna go back to it while you.
Kind of along the same lines as what Debbie asked about the surrounding areas. The cul-de-sac, I believe today the Hangar 18 Auto shop that's right there on that corner. I don't know if they built their sidewalk or the city came and did it. I don't know, but there is an egress point on that street, Craigmore Road. And if I'm looking at the diagrams correctly, they're no longer going to have access to that egress and egress on that specific road. Is that correct?
I can't remember offhand where that lands, but when the city vacated that street, they get half of it. So I've spoken to them. They're excited about being able to extend their storage, their car storage into that part of the street. And with the cul-de-sac, as we build that out, it's a requirement for our development that we build it, and it's not cost that's incurred on them. So they're getting that sidewalk and cul-de-sac built next to their property, and they're getting vacated land into their parcel as well. So they were in support of this project for those reasons.
Okay, so they're aware of that, and then of course the apartments, the Bruin, I think that's the correct, the Bruin Manor apartments that are right next to the auto shop, the Hangar 18 auto shop. Are they, let's see, they're only gonna have an egress, ingress egress to their location by going north on that Craigmore Road, correct?
Correct, but I want to point out that the cul-de-sac on Cragmore was not part of our design. It was the city requirement. So it was the city that decided this cul-de-sac needed to go there and that road needed to turn.
Okay, so as long as are the tenants and or at least the owners of those apartments aware that their tenants are now gonna have to go north on Cragmore instead of trying to go south?
Honestly, I can't speak to their ownership and what they're made aware of, other than the fact that it's a city mandate that we do this.
Okay,
They are given postcards on it though, so, but there is a reliance that the owner will communicate with that to them as well.
okay. And then I have one more question about the sidewalks. Are the sidewalks only being extended on the property line? In other words, on whatever is Cragmore Road? And then they will stop, because I think that there is certain sections of that are not, will not continue to have sidewalks. If it's just the lot of land that we're looking at. I don't know if that makes sense, but looking at the
No.
land area.
Yeah, it does make sense. So we are putting in sidewalks along our frontage.
Right.
So where our frontage stops, yeah, sometimes it would be nice to carry the sidewalk on, but that's unfortunately where the sidewalk ends as far as our development goes.
Okay. No pun intended, that was a.
That was my way of doing
I
it.
like that.
I thought it was intended.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Probably had
Does the covered parking come with the monthly amounts that were listed, or is that an additional fee for people?
The covered parking would be an additional fee, but there's a small percentage based on the total parking available. So.
All right, so I'm gonna not ask a specific question, but try to provide a little bit of context for some of our community and newer members. So what this is a tax increment funding. As Debbie mentioned, I'll use simple math because a lot easier for me. So we're gonna pretend that right now we're getting $1,000 in property taxes from this vacant lot every year. And so we have a developer that wants to come in and build something on top of that under certain conditions. Well, they can't afford to, per URA, this project is a no-go if effectively have to have the tax funding, the supplement, to be able to build these projects or they're not viable. And that's what he's talking about, the but-for test or whatever it was we called it. And so effectively what will happen is as the development happens, the property is valued more and more. We would continue to get the $1,000 we currently get, and then the additional, the tax increment goes to the developer to help fill some of that. Now, I hope I got most of that close.
You did, and just for Kenny's sake, that's page 12.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And then, there are certain parts of this that qualify for tax increment and some that are not qualified, correct? So like building 29 stories versus 30 stories doesn't impact like how that happens, and it has to be for public good, something like there, but there's qualifiers on what actually gets funded through the TIF.
Correct, so the really nerdy answer to your question, is that really TIF can go to anything, okay? The state statute doesn't limit what it can or can't go to. It can go to jobs, or it can go to horizontal infrastructure, or it can go to, safety things, abatement, you name it. we like to, as the Urban Renewal Authority Board, we really like to have increments going into a project. We want to, you know, either have it be in a challenging area, or we're building in some sort of a public parking component if it's downtown. Each project's different. Integris, which we didn't need your participation on that one, but that one was jobs. And so all of them are different and are looked at through their own individual lens. But on this particular one, that level of affordability and baking it in for that 25 to 30-year time frame, that's what spoke to the URA board, as well as the very challenging area to develop that this whole area is. So that's really why we wanted to put the TIF towards that. But any tax entity can say, well, we kind of like a public art piece, so we'd like, you know, ours to go to the public art component, or ours to go to the affordable. You know, sometimes that happens from time to time too, but it's very adaptable in that realm.
Are we looking for folks to do book blockers over there, Michael?
That'd be a good spot.
Sorry.
But there is, speaking of that corridor in general, though, I mean, there is, I think, a lot of opportunities for a partnership with the library district. You know, this is obviously one project within the entire corridor. But there could be some interesting ideas that come out of it. Because really the entire community, county, all the way to the city, really wants to see this area shine, you know, for everyone.
Any other questions?
I have. Sorry, I said that really loud. I have my phone on Marlon. So what is the full TIF amount or URA amount that you are awarding this project?
The entire TIF amount, I'd have to pull up a separate agreement, I can find that. Since it doesn't have a sales tax component though, and property taxes are generally low, it's not a ton. Typically, you know, in El Paso County and Colorado Springs, sales tax is really the main driver. But I could go through that impact report. They're all listed in the impact report. You don't give a dollar.
I just like to hear that you have an idea of how much you're spending on taxpayer dollars.
Oh, yeah, yes, ma'am. When we get to the end, once we get through, here's how serious we are with those taxpayer dollars. So we'll not only put a schedule of what's allowable to even get these TIF dollars, but we also have a third-party engineer that we hire that when Drew ends up building it, and that's kind of what I like about it. It's a fiscally conservative tool because the onus is on him to get it built and then deliver me the receipts for that. Then that goes through a third-party engineer process to make sure that those costs are in line with industry standards. And then and only then, as it generates increment, do we allow it to go back. So we've got a lot of checks and balances as it relates to taxpayer dollars.
But
Yeah.
what I want to make sure though is that there is a number that we're looking at and we know that, and how much of that number, I know when it's like a tax and additional, like a, you know, a retail tax, it's a percentage. How much is the library board looking at overall?
Percentage is 100% of property taxes of the project.
And I'm assuming all the other entities are paying 100%.
Yes, ma'am. I unanimous votes too.
And then you mentioned about it does have to go to planning and city council as well. Has there been projects like this that they have turned down and for any reason?
For an attainable housing project, with any level of long-term affordability or AMI ceilings on it, not that I know of. There has been some more in like northeastern Colorado Springs where you've had, again, not our projects, but like Royal Pines was a big one where you had a lot of neighbors come out that say that they didn't want affordable housing there. That was a little bit lower level affordable housing than what this one is at. But sometimes you'll get community members who say, we just don't want an affordable housing project in our backyard. That's probably where the biggest rub with council has been in the past.
Sure, I have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. Building these, you know, there's a difference between building for leasing versus building for self. And a lot of this firewalls and the ability, if at some point, because I sort of believe attainable housing is really trying to put people on a path, but they get that American dream of owning a home. And we're building a ton of apartments, and most of them cannot be flipped into being a condo or a townhome if some of our state laws happen to change a little better. Dry, and I can actually agree very much on that part. But do you have any of those built in, like firewalls or the capabilities?
So an apartment building and a condo. From a building code standpoint, all right, yeah. You'll see condo developers, because of our current state laws and the lawsuits that they attract. Will do everything they can, and that's why. That jump to home ownership in condos, which was common when I was growing up, my first home was a condo. It has disappeared because.
Because of our state laws and our defect.
The
law. I
litigation,
agree, well,
yeah.
that's why I'm asking you. Is your project built that if it wanted to be a sold property, could it be done?
I'll tell you what, the county asked me the same question, and I wish I could build condos. The insurance will not allow us to at this stage.
But if
in
all
10
this
years, if it
changes.
changes, yes, we could do a condo plat, and we could turn it into condos.
Wouldn't have to do anything else, it's quality home ownership. That you're leasing.
It's a legal, long process of surveying inside the building, but yeah, as far as the building is concerned, the building is built just like a condo would be,
Or townhome.
or town, well,
Townhome's a little different.
townhomes have only one shared wall on either side, but yeah.
Okay, and then, just really quickly, I want to say thank you for either saying you did not know the answer, or that you would get the answer, or that you had a slide for it. I very much appreciate that.
All right. Scott?
Yeah, when is this gonna get to the planning commission? Is it during, is our next meeting on the? They had one on the 8th. They don't look like they have one scheduled yet. You know,
We're working with the planning department on getting that one
so it's
scheduled.
not gonna go towards the commission?
Well, no, we go to the planning department is the one who works that entire agenda and schedule, so the planning department will tell us
They haven't.
when it can go to the planning commission. It'll have to do that before it goes to council.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. That's all I had.
Do you have an quibble about the 100% and the fact that Dry City stopped bringing us 100%? Okay.
Unless I need it though.
I just want to make sure you got all those questions answered. That was it. That's it.
I just want to make sure I have process. So at this point, in what we asking for a vote. We can say our little spiel and then the vote. Does it have 2 votes here or 1?
Just one.
Just 1. And then if something failed, then it's achieved that way.
So process wise, we had this happen before and we ended up having a conversation, I think, and a little bit more. We didn't actually go to a formal mediation process. We talked a little bit offline. They came back with a different proposal, I believe is what
Yeah,
happened.
that was for Whiteman,
Yes, yes,
said the city gate project
yeah.
downtown.
But I believe that's what the process was. So one vote, and if it gets passed, hoopla. And if it doesn't pass, then likely we would have other conversations after that.
You know, we just can't get, like, we just can't get to council, right? We have those in place.
And then if we haven't gotten all the answers, we could vote to postpone as well to get the final answers.
What answers are we looking for still?
Just some of the numbers that we were looking for, the more concrete numbers.
Well, the concrete numbers as it relates to your tax, or are you talking about the concrete numbers as far as rent levels
The
or?
rent levels, the ability, the projects, let's see what I have here. You know, the AMI, I think we talked about the full amount for the project.
Sure, so I mean, obviously the AMI levels, are all handled through the county and through HUD, but 80% AMI, one person is 63,000. If you go up to a 3-person family, that's 81,000. So those levels will fluctuate based off of how many people are in those units too.
Well, what I'm struggling with, and I guess you could have multiple
Yeah,
people living, not just family members living, and when you do 63 and you basically go 30%. And then you divide that, you're looking at, which my numbers are right, like I'm the right one, I have 1575, And most of your rents were 16 to 21, so I guess you're assuming you have more individual salaries living there than children.
Let me pull up the AMI table. I think Andrew was, the consultant was trying to jump in to answer something. Let me pull it up.
Yeah, and Jariah, I just sent you the AMI table for 2025 for El Paso County. So you've got it in your inbox if you want to use that and just reference that off your phone, or I can to field questions if that's helpful.
Go ahead and fill that question, Andrew, if you'd like. It's just
Okay.
easier.
Sure. So, and is the question specifically the income limits by AMI by household size, or is it more about how HUD sets them and how the applicant will have to document compliance with them? Or both? We can answer any kinds of questions you're looking for.
Well, basically what I'm trying to get to is, you know, the rentability with the AMI fitting the attainable, the truly affordable. I just wanted to get a little bit more of a hard number. I realized the 63,000, but like I said, when I sort of looked at the numbers as well as dividing it out, you know, it's 1,575, and I think the lowest rent was 1,600. So I was just trying to figure out how you could go up to 3,000 with an AMI SAT.
I have,
So 120% AMI for one person would be $2,500.
Okay.
Andrew, do you have 2025 AMI for 80%, one person?
I do, 2025 AMI at 80%, 1 bedroom, 1688, 2 bedroom, 2026, 3 bedroom, 2340.
Minus fees, I'm assuming.
So 1688 would be the 80%, and like you said, ours was at 1677.
And do your leases with the new laws, I mean, do they include or not fees?
The new laws coming in do not allow property owners to bill for unmetered services.
Well, there's also a lot of other fees.
A lot of other fees. Yeah.
And the new laws are gonna push cartel a lot of those. So I'm trying to get, is this the base rent, or is this like a basic, really what someone would pay?
So most modern apartments are built with individually metered units, which means that the tenant pays for their own electricity, they pay for their own water, and they pay for their own heat. Ours are all electrical right now. So in doing it that way, it kind of puts the onus of energy conservation on the person using it, as opposed to having one neighbor conserving energy and the other neighbor not.
That's not really my question, but I appreciate you giving that.
The reason I bring that up is these are all individually metered. And the biggest, my understanding of the new law in January, just talking to my property manager on it, is that you can no longer do what they call a RUB system, which is a rent utility bill back system, where you would estimate utilities and then send them a bill on that. And the only thing you are allowed to charge them now for trash, for example, is the cost of the trash fee plus $10.
Well, and they're passing through more, like, for example, your garage, you know, there's a lot of things where they're looking at where, you know, rental application fees, people can charge up to $200, says justifying, actually no, it's exactly yet. So that's what I'm trying to say is, what would be the all-in cost on somebody moving in here? Because I'm assuming this does not include your meter utilities, like you said, or cable or internet generally, because you have the thing, internet. But basically you have any other costs, you know, there's management cost, I'm assuming, pool cost, heat cost, fob cost, all those.
Those
Just
are.
trying to get a good handle.
Yeah, no,
Really
that's a
cost.
fair question, and it's definitely getting into, we don't underwrite it where all those expenses are handed off as additional fees we underwrite it based on, this is our monthly fee, this is our operating expense ratio, this is our net operating income. The fees that we have to pay for the utility, we pay the utility fees for the general area of the property. We don't pay the individual apartment utility fees. We pay the trash for the clubhouse, and then they get a trash stipend based on the trash of their units. We don't.
Concierge trash, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and since this is a HUD deal, housing and urban development, they're very stringent on what we're allowed to count as income. So as opposed to a market rate deal where you can say, hey, if they're gonna pay it, I'm gonna charge this for an application fee or this for that. HUD is a lot more stringent on how they allow us to charge additional fees, and they all have to fit into that through so this is a third-party certification with URA. I have 3 third-party certifications with HUD, who then go through all the underwriting to make sure. Meaning HUD's intent as well.
So, just, and I know it's not exact. But let's say we have a 1 bedroom, 696 square foot home for, I think the lowest was 1,600, might have been 15. I mean, you're losing that much. And then the person moves in. I'm gonna take out utilities, but we could say $100 probably for that size would be more than enough. But how much would they be paying for concierge, trash, the ability to park on a garage? Just how much do you think additional that?
So they don't want covered parking, it's just, so parking's included.
No stickers, no payments on that stuff? Okay, great.
That becomes a management nightmare as well as anything else, right? So the parking is included. If they want covered parking, there's a few covered parking spots. The trash, we have a will serve agreement from the local trash company. We don't have the actual per unit cost on that yet because they don't, it's hard for them to give us those numbers up front. But like you said, coming in January, there's some extremely restrictive landlord laws that are telling us that everyone is in a very tight band and regulated as far as being a property owner and their ability to.
Especially to be, even additional layer.
I wanted it to be super easy.
It's super easy. So. How is that working with HUD? Do you have a certain number of units that are reserved for HUD, or is the whole?
The whole project is financed by HUD, like.
Okay. All right.
And that's another reason why it's critical to have the community support on it too, because HUD's looking at that as well.
All right, thanks. All right. Other questions? Comments, concerns? All right.
I'll give a couple comments and then I'll just say my piece and then we can go on. I'll just start with a couple positives. I do like that there's 12 rather than 24 units and just not overpacking that. So I do want to compliment that. And I am sympathetic to the Nevada corridor needing some development as well. I do have a little bit of hesitation and I understand these are legal definitions of defining things as affordable or attainable. But in a real, someone who's bringing home 63,000 a year, when conventional wisdom is not paying more than a quarter to a third of your monthly take-home pay for housing, which should be both rent and utilities, 1,600 plus a month is really not affordable. That's over half someone's take-home pay at that amount. So I just have a little bit of heartburn with the definitions here because really with the cost of living and what people are facing, this isn't really attainable in any realistic sense for a single person making that amount. Again, I understand those are legal definitions, but I do really struggle with how those are drawn. And if someone's making over 60K a year and they have to rely on HUD for housing, something's radically wrong with the housing market is all I can say on that. So I do have some hesitation with taxpayer dollars going towards it, that the rents are really still so high. And I understand, again, it's comparative to the rest of the community, but I would hope that when there's taxpayer investment, it would help bring the cost of housing down in the area, and not just kind of keeping the status quo.
Yeah, you can speak down, I'll speak too, you go ahead.
I think the state of housing, I think between condos and all the different things that are going on, I absolutely agree with it. I think one of the things when we go back to the supply and demand that we talked about with Colorado Springs, one of the really fascinating things is we have a glut of supply right now. Rents have dropped 8%. Some double digits in downtown.
Right.
So we see the solution. It's having more housing available because then it's not a scarcity thing. And this is us trying to provide supply to meet the demand. And again, the study's showing moving forward in 2026 and a half, maybe 27, there's a drop off of supply coming to the market again. Because right now, there's an oversupply of apartments We try and go to private sector and say, listen, we want to build in an unproven area. We want to build in an area that needs it and we don't want to charge full rents. And they go, okay, go talk to someone else. And that's why we're kind of here trying to find the community support on it. When we talk about taxpayer money, the affordable housing gets a lot of taxpayer money. It also costs them 3 times to build what I build it at, because we have to be efficient. So that's where we're walking this tightrope, but really that middle ground is super hard to do without the support of the community.
Yeah, and I was just gonna comment, just as, you know, Colorado as a whole, it's a shot across the bow to the state legislature too, but the building laws are getting hard. And this is no joke. I mean, it is getting more and more expensive to build something in the state of Colorado, and we're seeing this whether you're a big company, whether build retail out here. You know, sometimes we're losing deals, you know, based off of that environment. It's very, very difficult. And so the good news is, you know, to Drew's point that he mentioned earlier, we're hoping that as we continue to build up and increase housing supply in this community, maybe those AMI levels go down a little bit. I mean, that's all regulated by HUD. So just because they're at this level now, you know, maybe they'll be different in a few years, but we'll still protect that percentage amount built into our agreement over the course of 25 years, which is a cool thing. And again, in an area that really just has not seen any private sector investment. You know, but completely agree with you. It is a challenge, and we're having to throw every tool at it, to be quite frank.
All right, any other questions or comments?
I guess if I can add one thing, I've been tracking the various questions, and there's a lot of, I would just say that communities are having a very challenging time increasing the supply of housing of any sort. And there's a lot of movement afoot throughout the state to just limit the amount of development. I think when you look specifically at affordable development, it becomes even that much harder. And if there's an opportunity to create an affordable, attainable, really, development, and we don't have a significant amount of neighborhood opposition, this is a rare window. And I can tell you how few communities have this type of opportunity. So just some perspective, highlighting the context around the state of Colorado. And certainly the numbers are all, you know, they line up in terms of the criteria for state and local standards. And that's the lane I'm in. But I just have been a part of many discussions on affordable and attainable housing throughout the state. And I just wanted to highlight that in terms of this specific project.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. All right. I will entertain a motion for decision 25-10-1. Please read it on your motion sheet.
I can read that. I move that the Pikes Peak Library District Board of Trustees approve the URA Odyssey at North Weber project as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. English. All right, we'll do a roll call vote here. Ms. English?
Yes.
Kenny, sorry, I don't have to pronounce your last name.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Benz?
Yes.
Mr. Taylor?
No.
Ms. Smythe?
No.
Ms. Dugan?
Can I say a little thing before I do my question vote?
Sure.
Thank you. You know, I said this on URAs, I have a bit, as Ms. Smythe said, on URAs and the fact of we just do not get all the information that I think to make a really full decision of what the community and everybody else wants. They also feel that there's always a hammer in the back pocket, because yes, you have to come to us, but then, I'm gonna say this wrong, I know I've been saying it wrong all day. If we don't agree, instead of coming back, it's an immediate mediation and it's money on our. And I really feel that's unfair when we're talking about taxpayer dollars and different issues. You know, I would love to have postponed this and gotten some more information and more point, but we're past that point. So, you know, I just felt like I have to vote no on this.
I'll vote yes. Motion carries. And the resolution passes.
Thank you for it.
All right, thank you. All right, next is public comment. Go ahead.
We have 6 folks signed up, so I'll just announce it each agreed a time. It saves us a little time. There will be on the screen up there the 3-minute countdown clock, and then when that expires, some lovely Oscar playoff music. Our first 3 speakers are Jade Stone, Jessica Lieber, and Howard. Jade, you're up first. Yeah, and that probably goes without saying, but please approach the microphone and you can talk as close to the microphone as you can. And Jade, let me just get the timer up. I need a timer for myself. All right, there you go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Jade, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to let me speak today. I would like to start by saying that how essential library services are, especially those provided by the PPLD. As someone who works directly with individuals who have intellectual and developmental disabilities, I see firsthand how valuable library programs are, not just for those in need of additional support, but for anyone who depends on not only resources, but accessible and inclusive community spaces. So first of all, thank you. Libraries are hubs for learning, creativity, and subsequently independence. From free computer classes, financial literacy workshops, art resources, hobby and skill classes, countless other resources, the library is steadily and constantly providing people with much needed opportunities that for most people would be absolutely impossible to receive otherwise. For the individuals that I work with in particular, the PPLD provides in ways that many other public spaces either cannot or will not. It's one of the few environments where inclusion and opportunity isn't just encouraged, but actively built in. An understanding space where people can navigate their thoughts and skills give people tools to navigate the world more freely. These services are helping bridge real gaps, promoting social connection, personal growth, and most importantly, self-sufficiency and independence. But those benefits only matter if people access them. And right now, access unfortunately isn't equal across our city. Expansion has gotten to the point where the East quote-unquote library is located towards the west of Colorado Springs. For families and individuals living in the East Powers corridor, getting to the library can be a big challenge, and I've seen it firsthand. Especially for those who rely on public transportation, caregivers, or support staff to access. And unfortunately, those are the individuals who need those resources very most. A new library on the east side would not just be convenient, it would be transformational. It would extend these essential services to an entire community that deserves the same opportunities as located close to existing libraries. When I praise the expansive resources offered by the PPLD, as well as the tangible results and improvements in people's lives as a result of them, the heart of that praise is access. Access to knowledge, community, and most importantly, the dignity to do so at one's own capability and pace. A location more east is not just about expanding regionally, it's frankly speaking about expanding our values. That inclusion, accessibility, and learning belong everywhere there is true need, not just where it's going to be easiest to open. I truly ask you to consider what the space could mean for so many people, and I thank you once again.
Jessica?
Hello. First, I'd like to welcome Penny to the PPLD Board of Trustees. I sincerely hope that you will be a leader on this board rather than a follower. I hope that you will bring a new presence of calm and compassion, logic, and community-centered focus to this board. These qualities will be deeply appreciated by those of us who love our libraries and who want to see the PPLD sail to new heights, and those of us looking for a reason to hope. A year ago tomorrow is the anniversary of a dark day in Rock Rimmon. A year ago tomorrow, most of this Board of Trustees sat completely unmoved and uncaring in front of our community as we spoke for more than 3 hours about what our library meant to us. We discussed the gaping hole the closure of this facility would leave in our community, the hardships that our seniors, our children, our disabled would now face having to cross town without available public transit. To be able to access
a library. Tears were shed that night, and yet at the end of it all, our outcry had no impact on the decision. It was evident that decision had been made long before then. Even when we offered our own fundraising to help keep the building afloat for a year, this board of trustees turned a blind eye and shunned us. The answer was an unyielding no. And so the Rock Rimmon Library closed. And yet our community is still here. We are still sending emails with property updates and leads to help keep hope alive that you will do the next right thing and purchase a facility in the area. We are showing up to the meetings to keep abreast of the things that matter to this board of trustees. We speak at city council and county commissioners meetings to prove how dedicated to this cause we are, and we are trying to use our elected officials to help in this process and get the ball rolling. What other community in Colorado Springs is fighting this hard for a library? I haven't seen many other communities showing up in the way that we have, and you now collect our zip codes at these meetings, so I think that you know that. Please don't treat us as adversaries. We are here because we are deeply invested in the future of a Rock Rimmon Library. And as I've said numerous times before at these meetings, we want to work with you. And so I will again ask the question that City Councilor Nancy Henjo posed back in March 2025. What is the proposed timeline for a replacement facility in Rock Rimmon? Why are we 7 months down the road and still no answers have been given? This is the lack of transparency with which leads to so much distrust within our community and the broader Colorado Springs. Each one of you can change that. You can do the work, you can find the right fit that works within the finances available, and we are here to help. So please give us a reason to hope. Thank you.
Carla?
I would like to take a minute to stop. So can you call the next person?
Veronica Baker?
Trustees, it's good to see you in person this evening. We've recently had both the board retreat and the preliminary budget meeting, and I've been reflecting on how much has changed over the past year. This month marks 1 year since the trustees voted not to renew the Rock Rimmon Library lease. While I understand that Ruth Hawley is no longer in danger, I still have concerns, particularly about Cheyenne Mountain Library. I'm also thinking about how the board engages with our communities and considers how decisions impact access to public services. I truly hope there are plans to meet with residents and talk with them about upcoming ideas before moving forward, rather than assuming people are automatically on board. At the recent budget meeting, there was a mention that 4 Denver public library branches were closing. Shocked. I immediately started researching and reached out to Denver Library Associates. I'm very happy to report that this information was incorrect. 4 libraries in Denver are not closing. These 4 libraries are, however, undergoing construction. And due to the timing of certain bond commitments, all 4 are being renovated simultaneously. What's important to note is that all 4 will reopen, operating, and ready to serve the public in 2027. My hope is that we are not trying to represent a version of events in which library closures are portrayed as commonplace, because that simply isn't the case. I think great care should be taken when citing other library districts to justify what is happening in our own. Every district has unique circumstances, communities, and populations it serves. And as we've seen with Rock Rimmon Library closure, it's far too easy to point to finances as the reason, when in truth, so many other possibilities were never explored or even considered. You have a community ready to step up and help problem solve. However, we do not feel seen or heard, valued for our commitment and partnership. What I'm hoping we can do moving forward is find ways to reach out to the public about these big decisions and their impacts. I've been following closely events in our city, and I'm noticing a common theme. People do not like when decisions are made with their money, but without their input. We've seen this frustration with the Carmen Line project, the Meadows Park Community Center closure, And most recently, with the proposed changes to the net metering for solar customers. If there's one thing that's becoming clear, it's that people want to be heard and they want to be included. So knowing this, how can we better incorporate the public into the decisions we're making? And how can we do it in real time, proactively, rather than reactively? Because at the heart of service is trust. And every citizen collaborate and invite people into the process. We strengthen that trust in the libraries that depend on it.
Thank you.
Hey. Carla Powers, 80919. It's good to see you here. I hope I can see my speech here. Tears are not a sign of weakness. They're a sign of how deeply this is affecting our community. I'm in the position that I did never want to be in charge of this whole group here. And it's tough listening to everyone's stories and to hear about people who can't use the library anymore because they can't get across I-25. They're not able to anymore. It's hard listening to these stories, and that's why I keep doing this, even though I have many other things that I could be doing right now. So anyway, another just housekeeping thing I wanted to say is, when you look at the access policy, you might want to stick parent or guardian in all those places. Just, I know it's their decision, but it's just because there's a lot of foster children, a lot of people who are being raised by their grandparents and that sort of thing. Guardian puts that person in charge of the access policy. Possibly their parent isn't the best choice at that point. They want the guardian. So anyway, okay, I want to say welcome to you, Kenny. I would like to meet you sometime and talk with you. I'd like to do that with actually every single one of you. If anyone has time to meet and talk personally, so we're not like talking at each other, but with each other, I feel like this would be really productive. And we just want to work with you. Okay, I'm talking about the hybrid library model that was discussed at the retreat. I realize that this is just you brainstorming right now. And it's the very first, you're considering this the very first time. And you've looked ahead, and in your next budget, you've researched some funds for this whole thing. Everything looks good about that whole thing. You've mentioned UPass Library, Culver Lake Library, and possibly later using hybrid with the Rock River possible library in the future. And you've mentioned community meetings with UPass Library. You seem to be wanting community participation. This is great. To ask what we want and what we'll use. Otherwise, you might end up with what other library districts have gotten. They designed and created something that they felt was really strong. They hand it over to their people, and it doesn't meet the community's, unique community's actual needs. So after a large grand opening, wages, usage drops, and sort of like the Rock River's bookmobile, we really tried to help you guys publicize the bookmobile. We thought, well, at least we've got the book service here that, you know, get the books to people. We don't have the library programs and this sort of thing that we all wish that we had. But we tried that, and I know that it hasn't met our needs, and it's, people can pick up their homes now. So the seniors, they can get up the stairs. Oh my gosh, seriously? Okay, anyway. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Final two signups for public comment are Danny Soderez and KG Sukas. Danny, are you here?
I'm here to go to medical society meeting.
Okay, Kate?
All right, this setup isn't exactly perfect. My name is Catherine Chukas, 80919. I want to also welcome Mr. Kuniyuki to the board. And at a future meeting soon, I'd like to see more discussion of leases for libraries. There seems to be a one-year lease being requested for the Cheyenne Mountain Library property. So we're less than 11 months from when that current lease expires. So I'm hoping there's transparency about the discussion of the lease duration and the rationale for it. But really, I came here to talk about the PPLD budget story that's available on the website. And in this document here, I've tried to understand this as a property owner and as a mathematician who explains math concepts to library patrons. I do that all the time. In my opinion, there's some inconsistencies in these visuals and the information in the 2025 budget document, which do not give a good enough sense of the financial decisions available for the Pikes Peak Library District community. First, the visual of the dollar bill. It's inaccurate for most property owners in the Pikes Peak Library District. And I have two visuals. I'm happy to leave them as exhibits for you. These two visuals show you where metro districts are in the city of Colorado Springs. They're the things that are in bright colors. Also in the county of Colorado Springs shows you the metro districts. They're also in bright colors. What most people can see even from this distance is there's not many things in bright colors. There's not many metro districts. So showing a bar graph saying that 44% of property taxes go to metro districts is inaccurate for most of us here in the county of El Paso and in the library district. So don't use an example of people paying property taxes to metro districts. That's just a small percentage of people. So again, use those visual, keep that in mind. So again, we pay 0 to metro districts, and that's the majority of us. So I've looked at my property taxes, and over 5% of it is to the library district. So for me, and most of us not living in metro districts, your typical situation of $3,008 of property taxes, that means my household pays $155. And that's the metric we should be using. What mills we all pay to Pikes Peak Library Districts for similarly valued properties, 3.14 mills. We all pay $155 due to our market value being $500,000. And that means nearly everyone in the city of Colorado Springs pays $155. And everyone in the county with the same market value pays $155. And the small amount of people in metro districts also pay $155. They just pay a lot more in other taxes because of their metro district. The budget story is also inaccurate in how much you're receiving in OWN taxes. Your story doesn't show it. The 2025 revenues in the budget guide show about $40 million of property and specific ownership, but that's not enough. There's 4 categories that make that up. And page 15 in that revenue document doesn't match up to what's listed here in the budget guide on page 3. One easy example of that is just here in this table of $500,000 of interest. That's not on page 15 of the budget of the 2025 budget document. You can't get to $42 million that way. Why does that matter? We cannot help you with the levers to change things. We cannot help you with mill levy overrides. We cannot help you with mills. We cannot help you with Tabor. And so we can't help you if this information isn't accurate. Thank you.
Is there any other discussions this evening? All right, with that, we stand adjourned. Thank you.